Panel number 4. Again, my name is Alice Williams. I'll be the moderator for this afternoon panel. I want to just begin to just say that the information that was provided through panels number 1, 2, and 3, it was just so unreal. The amount of information that was provided, the amount of resources and tools that they're giving us to use, from identify business opportunities all the way down to how do you prepare yourself for getting in front of decision makers, looking at strategic plans, helping you understand the organization structure, where to go and what to do. And I am very pleased this afternoon. This is our last panel, but I'm very pleased this afternoon to have 3 special guests with us today, 2 from SBA and 1 for Procurement Technical Assistance Center. And these young men are going to be providing us a wealth of information about free resources. This is what this topic is all about today. You're going to find out from these gentlemen the free resources that you can get to help you prepare yourself to get into some of these organizations, these government agencies, how you prepare yourself to get into the government agencies, how you get bonded, anything that they have to provide to you in regards to being successful in your journey and doing business with the federal government, they're going to provide to you. Like the other panels, we're going to introduce the panelists, and I'll do that in a few minutes. But I want to remind the audience that please take the opportunity to post your questions into the chat. These gentlemen are ready to address any questions that you may have, and I would like for them to make sure that they're able to answer your questions. So please put those questions in the chat. And we're going to begin with the introduction of our panelists. Please forgive me. Our first panelist is Mr. Peter C. Gibbs. I'm very happy to have met him today. It's my first time having an opportunity to meet him. He's from the Small Business Administration, U.S. Small Business Administration. And he's the director of the Office of Surety Guarantees at the SBA headquarters located in Washington, D.C. He has a professional staff of 25 up there that he managed day-to-day operation. But most importantly, he's responsible for developing and recommending policies and procedures and guidelines and criteria for evaluating and mitigating all programs and operation efforts. I've learned a lot about reading his bio, and his bio is attached in the program, so feel free to go into his bio and read it. But what I also found out is that he also spent over 14 years in industry, and he worked doing venture capital and rural business investment programs. So he's very knowledgeable in his field. But I also want to say thank you for your service. He's also a military vet where he spent 27 years with the Army. So thank you, Mr. Gibbs, and we're looking forward to hearing from you on this panel. My next guest is also from the U.S. Small Business Administration. His name is Mr. Wallace D. Sermons III. We're very happy to have him on the panel as well. He currently serves as the Deputy Director, Area and Field Programs Execution for the U.S. Small Business Administration, Office of Government Contracting. So this is going to be very important, what he brings to the table. So I'm looking forward to hearing what he has to say. Under his authority of the Small Business Act, Mr. Wallace is responsible for direction, management, and execution of the national level prime contracting and subcontracting procurement assistance programs. So we're glad that he's here. He's also have a military background, and so we appreciate your service as well. But we're glad you're here, and we're looking forward to hear what you have to say and oversight of your program as well. And then this next person is no stranger to industry. Everybody's heard of the PTAC. If you haven't, you're going to get a wealth of information today from Mr. Michael Townsend. He is the procurement counselor with the Virginia PTAC at George Mason University. He provides procurement counseling to small and large businesses seeking to establish or grow their footprint in federal government, state, local government, and commercial markets. So we're very excited to have all 3 panelists here today, and I know they're going to give us a lot of information as relates to resources. As we said earlier, the topic was free resources. So anytime you hear free, you need to start writing. So what I like to do is have each gentleman come forward and give a quick overview of their organization and what it is that they do. And I'm going to start with Mr. Gibbs.
Alice, first of all, I want to say thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk about the surety world. I know that surety bonding, especially contract surety bonding, is very intimidating to a lot of small businesses. But if there's one thing that I want you to understand today, I want you to take out of what we're saying is, what I'm going to say is, I want surety to be the least of your worries after today. SBA surety bond program has been around since 1970. We actually just celebrated 50 years as a federal program, and we partner with Treasury listed surety companies, and currently we have 43 partners that we partner with. And our program is here to help small businesses grow, to increase opportunity for small businesses, and by having flexible underwriting criteria. The max that we go on contracts, we can go up to $6.5 million on a non-federal contract. And if that contract is federal, we can go up to 10 million. The entire process is online. You submit the application through an agent, one of our authorized agent, where you go to our website and you find an agent, and the agent meets with you, the small business, and they submit the application to us. A completed application submitted to SBA is approved within 2 days. The max that we do is within 2 days. We also have what's called a quick app, and that is for contracts that are 400,000 and below, where we, the SBA, do not require any paperwork, but I'm sure the agent or the surety company, they may have some requirement, but we don't require any paperwork, and those applications are submitted within minutes. I want to give you a quick example of why the surety bond program can benefit you, especially if you're a small business. Whatever bonding that you authorized for in the standard bonding market, if you utilize one of SBA's authorized agents, you will get twice that amount. And the reason that happens is because the way we look at underwriting in the standard bonding market, if you're trying to get a bond for $1 million, they're going to require you to have 10% liquid cash in the bank. So $1 million, they're going to require you to have $100,000. If you utilize one of our agents, because we guarantee 80 to 90% of the bond, we say that 5% is okay. So that $100,000 goes down to $50,000. And if your company has a business line of credit, the unused portion of that business line of credit can count towards that $50,000. So needless to say, we have many companies that really don't have a lot of liquid cash in the bank, but they're getting bonding through our partnership with these Treasury listed surety companies. I'm sure I ate up my 5 minutes, so I'll stop right now. I'm looking forward to the questions that you have, and I'll turn it back over to Ms. Alice.
All right, so it appears that I'm on. So good afternoon, everyone. Again, I'm Wallace Sermons. I'm the Deputy Director for the Office of Government Contracting, and we're really the nuts and bolts of the contracting operations for small business. So the Office of Government Contracting falls under the Office of Government Contracting and Business Development. Although I believe the Office of Government Contracting touches just about every one of our programs, we also do house our certification programs here as well. So that would be your Hubzone program, your Women-Owned Small Business program, and your 8A program. That's our flagship program. So outside of that, we are looking forward to the CVE transfer that was right now housed with the Department of Veteran Affairs. That's for your service-disabled veteran-owned small business and your veteran-owned small business certifications. The Small Disadvantaged Business program is not a certification program. As of right now, it's a certification program. So I oversee prime contracting, subcontracting, our certificate of competency program, our non-manufacturer's rule, and our size program. The two biggest programs being, of course, that prime contracting and subcontracting. The best way to get in the game, I always say, is subcontracting for new entrants. But our prime contracting program, we have a plethora of procurement center representatives that fight to make sure that you get an equitable share of public contracting. They oversee the operations, and when I say operations, the small business contracting for the 24 CFO Act agencies. They support our federal partners, the Office of Small Disadvantaged Business Utilizations, also in some instances as it relates to DoD small business programs. We support them in reviewing the acquisitions that come out from the contracting shop, the requirements that come from the program shop, to see if the rule of two applies, if we can set something aside for not only the small business category, but also for that socioeconomic level. We support in the federal government reaching the 23% statutory goal under 15 USC 644G. We also support and utilizing rules to make sure there's reserves set aside for small business, either a certain amount of contracts or a percentage of contracts under SBA's Rule 1331. Our playground is the Federal Acquisition Regulation and 13 CFR, the Code of Federal Regulations. We're here to support you. Through the Small Business Act, we also participate in supporting counseling, our certification program, which you'll see on certified.sba.gov. That is the program that you can see. I know a lot of your questions may come in regarding eligibility. A lot of the information regarding eligibility, you can actually click right on that link and it will bring you through almost a series of prompts, such as almost like TurboTax. As it relates to our subcontracting program, that's in the realm of FAR 19.7. We have 6 commercial market representatives and a subcontracting program manager at headquarters level. And they ensure that not only that there's oversight for the prime contractors to ensure that you're getting your fair share of subcontracts, utilizing systems such as ESRS, the Electronic Subcontracting Reporting System, and the other side of that information, FSRS, to ensure that even on a bi-monthly basis, that the small businesses that are stated to be utilized in the subcontracting plan are utilized. So you have a support system here. Again, I encourage you to go to our link on our SBA page, the Government Contracting and Business Development page, just so you can see exactly all of your resources. You'll be able to see the area directors. There's 6 area office directors that administer operationally most of the programs I just mentioned. So those 6 area directors that report to me, they have a wealth of knowledge and they're spread out across the entire country. So you have resources at your disposal. There'll be some other links that are shared with you, such as our prime contracting email, if you have any questions regarding that. And again, I look forward to answering any questions that you may have. Thank you again for being here.
Good afternoon. I thank you for the opportunity to be on this panel, Ms. Williams. My name is Michael Townsend, and I am a procurement counselor with the Virginia PTAC. We are headquartered out of George Mason University in Virginia, and we provide expert counselors and training that cover working and getting into federal, state, and local government. We cover Northern Virginia, Richmond, Fredericksburg, Charlottesville, Winchester, Hampton Roads, Lynchburg, and Roanoke. We provide assistance in doing business with the federal, state, and local government. Our counselors are experts and former representatives from industry. I myself spent 30 years with SAIC. My last 5 years with SAIC, I was their director of their small business program. Our assistance includes one-on-one counseling sessions, electronic tools, and training seminars. Most of our training is free. I would say 95% of it, or it's at low cost. We are geared and targeted toward helping small businesses, especially minority and women-owned entrepreneurs, Hubzones, and veteran-owned companies, okay? And we help businesses, whether they are startups or they've been in business for 20, 30 years, from small businesses to large businesses. We provide our services. Some of these services we provide, we help you learn how to conduct market research. You will not be successful in the federal government market unless you know how to find opportunities, establish relationships with large primes and with government agencies. Okay, we help you with some of these certifications, beginning with getting your profile into SAM and SBA DSBS systems. Very important information, because if that information is not correct and someone's looking for you, they won't know how to find you, or they won't understand what it is you do. Okay, we can help you with reading and understanding bid and proposal solicitations, RFIs, RFQs. We can help you locate other businesses to team with. Okay, we also help and support you with some of these certifications that you may need for government procurement. That includes the WOSB and EDWSB certifications, the CVE certifications for veterans, the DBE certifications, and SWAM certifications within your local state governments. And understand that every state, in every area within the United States, you have your own PTAC. We support companies that are in Virginia, but if you're located in Maryland, if you're located in DC, no matter where you're located at, there is a PTAC organization that can support you. You can find more information about us at virginiaptac.org, or you can email me, and they'll put my email address up on the screen. I look forward to your questions and further discussions on how the Virginia PTAC and how PTACs can support you.
Thank you, Mr. Townsend, Mr. Gibbs, and Mr. Sermons. Really appreciate the overview of what it is that you do in your organization. Definitely have a lot of resources to offer. But what I want to do, I want to start again with Mr. Townsend, because there are some things that I was just thinking in my head as he was spoken. As each one of you spoke, I had questions of my own. We are going to defer to the audience as well, because like me, I'm sure they got plenty. But Mr. Townsend, you mentioned as a counselor for the PTAC, you offer a lot of resources, especially in the areas of training. One question I have, and there's several questions in parts, can industry from, or small businesses from other states take the training at the PTAC located in Virginia? If not, how does that work? How often do you have the training? How do small companies get on the calendars for the training? And you talked about low cost. What does low cost mean? A lot of these startup companies really don't have any money at all, and they're looking for anything free that they can get that will help. And we know that a lot of the PTACs are designed just to help small companies get on their feet, understand government procurement, understand how to market themselves, and understand how to go after government contracts.
Excellent question, Ms. Williams. So if you go to our website, virginiaptac.org, you will see a link for our training calendar, okay? And you will see our training, we generally update it quarterly. So you will see a number of topics there that will help you no matter what your questions are, what your concern is, or what your immediate need is for training. Now, for our Virginia PTAC clients, our training is free. You'll create a login on our site, and once you log in, you can select whatever training class you want to take, and it will register you. It will be for free. If you're coming from outside of the PTAC, number one, I would suggest you go to your local PTAC. Find your local PTAC and see if they don't offer the training. Join them and take advantage of the free services that they provide. For us, if you're not a client, there will be a nominal cost. A nominal cost is generally around $75. Okay, so we're not talking thousands, we're not talking hundreds. $75 for some of our classes that we offer, and then there may be some that you're able to get in, even if you're not a client with us, for free. But our training is generally free. Okay.
Thank you so much. Just one last question: what type of training do you provide? So if I'm in industry, small business, or one of the MBEs looking to do some training with you, what type of training would they be looking for?
Wow, that's a loaded question. We provide training and counseling on almost any topic that you may have, question you may have in dealing with the federal government, getting in, understanding how to do procurement with them. We provide RFP response training. We provide training on, as I stated earlier, getting certified for the 8A program, the Hubzone program, the EDW, OSB, and WOSB programs. If you want to learn how to do pricing and how to set your G&A rates, we have training, okay? If you want to learn how to contact Mr. Sermon and how to be prepared to meet with folks, that's very important. Getting a meeting with someone is one thing, but being prepared to meet with them so that you get something out of it, we do that training. So anything that you can really think of in working with federal, state, and local government, we probably have some type of training or counseling from our individual counselors that we can provide.
Thank you so much for that response. And since we talked about Mr. Sermon, let's just go straight to Mr. Sermon. I want to ask some questions about certification, but then I have a different question about subcontracting. So we've gone to the PTAC, we've taken the training, we have a clear understanding of what we need to do. We get to your office. What are the expectations? What are you looking for when a small business comes to your office and they say, I'm prepared, I've been to PTAC, I'm prepared to fill out the application for certification? What kind of guidance do they have, or what kind of resources they have to use to allow them to go through that process?
No, I appreciate that question. And it really depends, right? So if you come to my office, the Office of Government Contracting, we handle operations. So I probably create a segue over, my team will create a segue over to one of the program leads for that specific program, because there's a lot of nuances and a lot of changing rules, especially as it relates to Hubzone, especially as it relates to the 8A program. And then remember our WOSB, our Woman-Owned Small Business Program, that certification program just came alive October 15th of last year. Before it was a self-certification program. And if we were talking about a women-owned small business or a ED WOSB, then we're also looking at not only do you have support through SBA, now that's free support, but we also have third-party certifiers. Now that comes as a nominal fee, and that fee is going to depend on that certifier. But we have third-party certifiers that will walk you through that process as well and send it through the system. But in regards to Hubzone, there's a lot of changes, especially and the 8A program as it relates to the pandemic. So for a Hubzone, remember you have residency requirements, but a lot of that was kind of relaxed during the pandemic because you had student employees who went back to college or were no longer in the area. And the same thing with the 8A program. There was, especially for those who had started the process. So this goes into people who are already in the process. There were extensions and other reliefs that were provided. So what I would do, or what my team would do, is we would get you in contact directly with that program lead. If it was something related to the 8A, we have a lot of our bidding is done by the Office of Field Operations. I mean, the Office of Field Operations, OFO. They support through their business opportunity specialist. And that's someone, if you're looking for that 8A certification, you want to get, and even once you receive that 8A certification, you want to get familiar with those district offices, because wherever your business, wherever your business, the principal address is located, you want to get familiar with that district office, make contact with that leadership staff and that business opportunity specialist, because they're also the ones that are going to help place you if one of these contracting shops reaches out and says that they have a requirement, but they don't have a specific 8A. I know I probably went on as I'm trying to push.
No, that's a great answer. You can go on as long as you want. That was great information. I think this is what the audience is looking for. And I do really appreciate the response. One last question before I go to Mr. Gibbs. I heard you mention subcontracting, and that's always a big issue because you definitely want fair opportunity when it comes to subcontracting. My question is, it gears around subcontracting enforcement, and I want to know what is your role as it plays to working with the federal agencies in ensuring that subcontracting is enforced.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. So one thing we've done in this past fiscal year is I'd like to say we have revamped subcontracting. So we have added some compliance program that we do a performance compliance review, and the performance compliance review looks at prime contractors and their ability to meet the performance requirement. It utilizes systems such as our electronic subcontract reporting system to make sure, first of all, that they're reporting the data that's required under FAR 19.7 on a timely basis, and also that they're meeting those goals that are negotiated at either that contract level for individual subcontracting report, the cumulative amount for the year at a summary subcontract report, and for those commercial prime contractors who have a commercial plan, their actual commercial plan, that they're actually meeting those goals. A little complex when it gets to that, because it also considers not only their federal presence, but their commercial presence as well. Now, from an SBA standpoint, you have to remember that subcontracting requirement is a local requirement that is a material part of the contract itself. So the contracting officer oversees that, but the PCR, when it's being negotiated, the procurement center representative, as part of their pre-award process, reviews that to ensure that that there's a fair amount or fair consideration for small business subcontracting. Past that point, when the commercial market representative, that's when you think of subcontracting from that post-award perspective. When they're reviewing, again, when they're reviewing that performance review or some type of inquiry comes in, whether that inquiry is from a congressional inquiry, from GAO or any other body, they'll review it, but their findings, even the findings from that performance review, that goes over as a letter to that contracting officer, and goes over as a letter to the contracting officer to go in that contract file. It also can be representative on the results of that contractor's CPARs, that's their end of year performance. And I got to make sure I add these two things.
Okay.
If you have gotten into just for someone who, if you have a subcontract, maybe you're just getting into the game, but if you have a subcontract, or if a prime contractor has promised to provide you with a subcontract, you've supported them, and when I say promise, I'm gonna make sure I clarify this. You have supported them in the development, or you're mentioned in that subcontracting plan, or you supported them in the development of their proposal. Maybe you're mentioned as a team subcontractor or subcontractor they're going to utilize. If they do not, during the performance of that contract, utilize you to the same extent and magnitude as promised, you need to reach out to us. That's the instance that the contract does not work there. So you can contact us, and what we'll do, our commercial market representatives, I got to make sure I'll send over the subcontracting resource email box for you to send that to. But we'll make sure that we get in contact with the agency, that contracting officer, and with that contractor, because they're going to have to explain themselves.
That is some great information. We get complaints all the time from industry regarding subcontracting enforcement. So are you basically also saying that you don't necessarily work with the agencies on the federal side to do joint surveillance? Is there opportunities for that?
So we do both. So we're remapping our memorandum of understanding with the Defense Contract Management Agency, DCMA, and also with Defense Logistics Agency, DLA Energy. So they normally support us when it comes to DoD contractors. We don't necessarily do what I would call a pure subcontracting surveillance of the federal agencies. However, right, I got to give the caveat and say, yeah. However, the procurement center representatives, we do about 30 surveillance reviews, and they're full surveillance reviews of the buying activities. There's over 3,000 buying activities in the federal government. We focus on the top 300, the ones that really support us in reaching that 23% goal. And we do full surveillance reviews on them. Obviously, right now we're in a virtual space, but normally we send out a team to that site and they review the contract files. As they're reviewing those, they're not only just reviewing from the prime contracting aspect, they're reviewing subcontracting as well to ensure that, first of all, the provisions, the terms and conditions that apply to subcontracting are included in that, and also to see exactly what the reports from ESRS go in there as well, but to ensure that the contractor were meeting their goals at that level as well. So they review it there. They also review at the end of year reporting and mid-year reporting. So even though it's done again at that local level, the contracting officer reviews the ISRs and the end of year SSRs, final reports if they come throughout another time of the year. We go in the system and we have ultimate authority in ESRS to look to see what was accepted. We can look to see by a contractor, by the name, by the DUNS number, by the agency, exactly what the results are. So we do have tools at our disposal, but as far as formal surveillance reviews, there's not any such thing as a formal subcontracting surveillance review. But as far as our prime contracting surveillance review, it does implicate subcontracting aspects as well.
Thank you for the clarification. Really appreciate that. I'm going to change focus a little bit. Mr. Gibbs, you said a lot about surety bonds, and it almost felt like I just didn't understand, or I was reading the Bible or something, and just didn't understand what I was reading. So I am so glad you're here to break all this down for me. So one of the questions I have is, what is the working capital requirement for bonding, and what rates are being paid, or do small businesses pay for bonding? If you can break that down for me.
Sure. So before I get into the response, I want to say that as a small business, you're gonna spend a lot of time trying to find business. You're gonna spend a lot of time going to training, and let's say that you're fortunate to be awarded a contract. Surety bonding is not something that you wait till the last minute to try to figure out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you do not want to be in a situation, number one, where you can probably lose that job, because if you get that job, the obligee or the owner, they might tell you, hey, you got 5 days to get your bond in, right? Or you do not want to be in a situation where you can't get bond in, but the general contractor tells you, hey, you can be under my bond,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're trying to have a business for a long time, those things rarely end up in a good situation, because at some point that relationship might sever, good, bad, or indifferent. And then you think, because I was under someone else's bond and I've been doing $500,000 contracts, that I could just go to a surety company. They're going to say, hey, well, you did $500,000 work. And the question is, no, you did zero, because you were under someone else's bond.
Right.
So that's one of the very most important that I want you guys to understand. Now, let's talk about the working capital, right? If you're trying to get bond in and you go to an agent or a surety company, they're going to underwrite your ability to complete that job. They're going to look at your credit. They're going to look at your capacity. They're going to look at your character, right? They're going to look at, has this business done similar type work, similar size jobs? And they're going to, because they're putting up the risk. They're saying, if Alice Williams Construction Company, we're back in that company, we've underwritten her business and we feel that she can complete that job. Now, if something happens, the surety company's on the hook now, where they have to finish that project, right? So the company says, okay, if it's $1 million, we want you to put up 10% liquid cash. That's the standard bonding market.
Okay.
And that's where many companies have difficulty, right? Because depending on how many jobs you got to have cash to support all those jobs, right? So that's a significant barrier to small businesses, trying to get contracts, right? So SBA, with the Surety Bond Guarantee Program, we partner with these companies and we say to them that, hey, if you're doing things exactly like the standard market, then you're really not helping that small business, right? So we tell them that if in the case of a default, we'll pay 80 to 90% of that claim, right? So we tell them we're okay. We're taking the bigger risk. We're okay with 5% working capital. So now the company, instead of having to come up with 100,000, now they come up with 50,000.
Mm-hmm.
The other part is utilizing the business line of credit. In the standard market, they do not count the business line of credit towards the working capital requirement. And so now we brought it to 50,000. And if you have a business line of credit, you can utilize that to get to the 5%, right? So as it relates to the rate that a small business should be paying, if you're paying more than 4% premium for a bond, you're paying too much, right? What I try to tell small businesses, the rate that a surety company charges you is not secret, right? Because you can call the insurance, the head of the state insurance, and you will find out what rate you should be charged. But and some of these companies, I can tell you, I come across this all the time, where small businesses walk up to me and they'll tell me, "Hey, I've been paying 15% for bonding." That sounds outrageous, but it happens, right? So you need to know about the relationship that you have. Make sure you're dealing with a legitimate, with an agent who is dealing with Treasury listed surety companies, because they are less likely to charge you fees that are not normal. As a small business, you should be paying anywhere between 1.5 and 3.5 to get a bond.
Thank you for that rundown. So if you can you give me a quick example of a small company filling out an application? I want to know, give me an example of one that fill out an application that may not be qualified, and one that fill out an application and was qualified and got bonding. Can you give me some example of some of the challenges that small business have when they fill out those applications to get
Yeah. So I would. That's a great question, by the way. I try to tell, and a little bit of background about me. I was a CFO of a construction company called Wise Construction in Dayton, Ohio, and then they were an 8A firm, and then a larger firm in New York City called LVI. So I've been on the other side of as a small business. I would say the company's ability to understand their appetite is probably the biggest issue that small businesses have, right? Quick example, when you get in a room, especially with minority contractors, everyone wants to do that $1 million job, right? So what I tell small businesses is, why don't you find 4 $250,000 jobs?
Oh, wow, great idea.
Right? And I'm not I have my accounting degree from 35 years ago. I don't know what 250 times 4 equals, but I think it's $1 million, right? But the biggest thing is, if you're lucky to get that $1 million job, and then you don't perform, most likely you're going to go out of business, right?
Right.
But if you have 4 $250,000 jobs, maybe you have problems on 2 of them. You will still survive, right? So the toughest questions that I try to have with small businesses and veteran-owned business, because I am a veteran, I have a special heart for veterans, is understanding that based on my experience, based on where my company is financially, your starting point might be 5. You should not be looking at no jobs more than 250,000, right? It doesn't mean that in a couple of years you can't get to that $1 million, but right now at this point, you may not qualify for that $1 million job. And when you try to tell businesses, well, what do you think the biggest issue as a small business to complete that $1 million job? Well, I will tell you, it has nothing to do with the actual work, right? It has more to do with having a reliable workforce.
Oh, wow. Great.
Right.
Wow. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. That's a lot of information and some great information for those who's trying to get surety bonds. Really appreciate the insight on that. We do have a question for the audience, so I'm going to turn it over to Andrew or Claudia to address the question that we received from the audience. And I do believe it's an SBA question.
Yes. Question is, can either of the SBA panelists provide an update on SBA increasing the NAICS code size standards?
You're on mute.
You're on mute, Wallace.
Okay, I'm back off. I thought I might have had some background noise there. So they broke it down. So this comes out of the office, OPPL is the Office of Procurement Policy Liaison. It's basically the policy office for Office of Government Contracting and Business Development. So again, you can see that at the SBA GCBD page link. But they're doing it in iterations. So it depends on the actual NAICS So some NAICS they have already reviewed and come up with the size standards. Some they may not have gotten to. If you have a specific question, if you send that to the contracting at sba.gov, we can get that over to the deputy director that works in that area and supports that NAICS team.
Very good. Thank you for responding to that. Claudia or Andrew, do we have any more questions from the audience?
Yes, I have one.
Thank you.
As a firm that graduated from the 8A program, what other certification programs would I be eligible for participation?
There's no limit. So even though you graduated from the 8A program, you still can get your WASB certification. You can get the VOSB or the Service of Able Veteran-Owned Small Business through Department of Veteran Affairs, and you can still get your Hubzone certification. And then again, remember, as an 8A, you're automatically classified, or when you were 8A, you're automatically classified as a small disadvantaged business. So when you self-certified in beta.sam, that self-certification, that still plays an integral part. And you got to remember, with the new administration, we're now looking at 15%. We will be looking at a 15% statutory goal for that. And on average, right now, the agencies have been receiving, with the federal government as a whole, between 9 to 10%. So we need you. So that, you know what I mean? But any other social economic category, I personally would focus probably on the Hubzone and the Services Able Veteran-Owned Small Business. And that's just because those two goals are set at 3%, and the federal government generally struggles on meeting both of those social economic goals.
Thank you so much. Are there any other questions from the audience, Claudia or Andrew?
There's an inquiry. There was a mention of a 1.5% to 3.5% loan options. Could you please name some of these sources?
No, that was not a loan. That was the premium that you should pay to get a surety bond. That's the rate that a small business should be paying for a contract surety bond. It should be between 1.5 and 3%.
Thank you for the clarification. Any other questions from the audience?
No, none.
Okay, so I want to ask Mr. Townsend another question. Market research came up several times. We heard it in panel 1, we heard it in panel 2. I think industry kind of talked about it as well when you start talking about market research. So everybody understand what market research is, but what advice can you give a small business in preparing themselves to market to the federal government?
That's an excellent question, and that's a question I get from 99% of my clients. In working with the federal government market or any market, whether it's commercial, federal, state, and local, number one, you need to know what it is you are selling, okay? And you need to be able to make that very clear to potential customers as well as teaming partners. Once you understand what you sell, then you need to go and see who is buying it. Okay, from using usaspending.gov or the new sam.gov interface, some of the other commercial products out there, you can ghost or you can find based on keywords, based on NAICS codes, based on PSC codes, who is buying or who has bought what you sell to the federal government. Okay, and from there, you need to even dig even further, okay? Understand how they procured it. What procurement vehicle did they use to buy it, okay? If you don't have one of those procurement vehicles, as you've heard Wallace mention, then your next step may be to subcontract. Finding out that information, you can look and see who did the government procure it to. Okay, and start reaching out to some of those companies. If you're reaching out to large primes, contact them through their small business office. Every large prime has a small business office. Go on their website, search for it, you'll find it. If you're trying to reach into the federal government, start with the small business office. Every federal government agency has a small business office, if they don't have multiple ones that correspond with their sub-agencies. So it's all about information. The information is out there. You can find it. And if you reach out to your PTAC, they can teach you and train you on how to mine and find that data.
Thank you so much for your answer. And I'm going to ask Mr. Sermons as a follow-on question as it relates to market research. A couple of things. I'm always approached about the 8A program. And I had a question proposed to me a few months ago that I could not answer. And it was the first time it's ever been proposed to me. But I had a client who asked, if I'm in an 8A program and I graduate, but I want one of my family members, like my daughter or my son or my husband, to apply for an 8A program on a different business, are they eligible to apply for 8A? Now, what I did here is that you only get one opportunity per family. And if that's the case, what is the extent of the family? Is it immediate family? How far do it filters down? But any way that you can address that question, I appreciate it.
Why'd you do it to me, Alice? You went too far in the weeds for me to give you that answer. So what I'm going to do, though, send that to me, and I'm going to make sure I give you the citations to that exact response. So this is one of the benefits of being in GCBD. I have about 3 experts who work in the BD program, the associate administrator for the BD program, the deputy associate administrator, and a director who provides the 7J technical assistance support. Mm-hmm. So that question, I'm going to have to make sure I don't want to just kind of wing that one. I want to make sure I get you the right.
I appreciate that. One last question. You just mentioned 7J program. Are you have the ability to talk about the 7J? Okay, very good. Can you tell the audience about the 7J program? It is another resource for industry, small businesses to learn how to do business with the federal government. But I'm going to allow you to speak about the 7J.
So you don't have to be in the 8A program. You can be a small disadvantaged business. There's a lot of options for getting 7J support. They do different types of training. The director of it is brilliant. So him and his team, they actually bring a lot of information to the table, and they support you in some of the areas that we've been discussing as far as market research, getting engaged, resources, etc. So you have to look to see what their training schedule is. They push a lot of information out through different outlets. Again, that's one of those things. If you want further information about when is their next training, they join just like we in operations, government contracting with the local PTACs to push out information as well. But if you want further information about getting registered for some of their trainings, again, send an email to that contracting at sba.gov, and we can get you over to that team so you can have that information.
Is it free?
It's free training.
Oh, very good. Thank you so much.
Should have led with that part.
That's okay. I like the word free. So we have about 5 more minutes before we actually end this panel. It's just so much information that we heard today, and I'm sure you can tell us much more information that we don't know. Before I ask any additional questions, I'm going to defer back to Claudia and Andrew again to see if there's any questions from the audience.
No, not on my end.
Claudia?
No questions.
Very good. Thank you. That means you all did a wonderful job. But what I want to do, we have about 5 minutes. I'm going to ask each of you to just take a few minutes. Is there anything that you want to tell the audience that you have not been able to discuss at this point? Any nuggets? This thing was all about tips. Any tips you want to give, especially in surety bonds area? Any tips that you want to give to the MBAs and the small businesses on what's next, what you can leave them with, what they can take away with to use and actually continue to market this stuff to the federal government? And I'm going to start with you, Mr. Gibbs.
Thank you. The one thing I would say to businesses is don't rush the growth of your company. Take your time and grow your business based on the financial condition of your company. And it does not mean that you can't get to be a 10, 20, $30 million company. But if you start off too fast, and you can't keep up with the demand, you probably will not be in business very, very long. And the way the construction, the surety business work is, if you complete a contract for 500,000, the next contract that the surety will consider is $1 million. And once you finish, it's about 100% more the next time around. So if you start off at 100,000, in a couple of years, you could be doing 5-10 million. But if you grow too fast and you cannot keep up with demand, and I said, the number one reason why businesses fail, construction businesses, is because of the labor force, an inconsistent labor force, right? So just keep that in mind.
Very good. Thank you so much. Mr. Sermons?
I appreciate you allowing me to go next. I'm gonna steal some Michael's thunder here. He probably doesn't remember this, but it was some years ago when I first kind of navigated from the acquisition, the contracting space over to the small business space, that Michael said some words. He's probably not gonna remember saying this, but it's something that's very valuable, and I've been passing it along to small businesses. And he started to mention, or at least alluded to it here, when he was talking about targeting. All right. Mm-hmm. So the biggest thing when you speak to anyone in the government and just positioning yourself to succeed is targeting. There is a large space of over 266 federal agencies when we break it down. Mm-hmm. And there's a small business office, as Michael was saying, all the 24 CFO Act agencies, and DOD is included as one of those. So think about the 3 service branches and the 4th estate agencies and different components that make up DOD, right? The largest buyer of the federal agencies. Mm-hmm. And there's no way to attack it all, especially with category management and the spend under management, the different best in class vehicles. The expectation is not for you to come out the gate and have be on one of these large GWACs or one of these large best in class multiple award contracts. You're probably looking for some type of local, possibly set aside or local buy. So you need to really target and figure out which agency is procuring the services that you provide and what is your value add. Not saying these are my capabilities, but what's your value add to these organizations? Look at the budget and briefs for these organizations. Learn exactly what they do, what's coming up next for them, what are their priorities, and how you can be a part of that ecosystem. But again, target, and that even comes with the certifications. Which agencies are lacking in finding businesses like you? So just kind of targeting in, and I can go on and on about targeting, but it was one of those things Michael said to me, because I tried to send him a list of businesses to do. It was a Shark Tank I was doing for an outreach event. By the way, these hospital agencies, these are for the most part free outreach events. They're required by the Small Business Act to do outreach and training, so you can learn more about those specific agencies doing their free events. But Michael had said to me, well, Wallace, what's the target? What target is coming this way? He said, what is their value add? So again, I had to come up with a document to ask and ascertain all of this information. And ever since, I feel like I lead with targeting in. So again, thank you for that, Michael.
Thank you so much, Mr. Townsend.
Well, Wallace, thank you for that. I don't remember the conversation, but I do remember those words, and they still play to this day. And if I have to leave anything with small businesses, because I see it, and I don't care how long they've been in business, from startups to being in business for many years, know what you bring to the table. It's not your capabilities, as Wallace said, it is the value. Okay, you wonder why you're not hearing back from government agencies, you're not hearing back from large primes, because you did not bring them the opportunity to help you. Okay, because they don't know what you do. They don't know why we should reach out to you. Follow the government money, chase the money. Okay, chase the money. That's how you get the attention. Find the opportunity to support the government. Find that opportunity to support a large prime as a sub. Okay, that's how you will get the attention. Bring the money to them. Don't sit back and wait for them to find you, because there's hundreds of you out there already. Your competition is there. Okay, all right. Find the opportunity. Go to the government and tell them, hey, I see you have this need. I can help you because We do this and we have proven past performance. The same thing with reaching to a large prime. Mr. Prime, I see that you work in this agency. You provide them with these type of services. We have something bleeding edge, or we have something that we think can even enhance your capability. Because remember, large primes use small businesses because they are agile. They may bring other skill sets that they don't do. And large primes don't do everything well. There are things that they don't want to do, okay? And there are things that they can't do. So that's what they look for small business to do. Yes, they have goals to meet, okay? But the majority of them do small business well. They're looking for small businesses to enhance and help them and take advantage of that. It's not going to them with your hand out asking, do you have a contract? Come in with something to make them help you. And if you don't understand that message, contact a local PTAC or contact me at the Virginia PTAC. I'll explain it to you.
Thank you so much. We've come to the end of this panel, believe it or not. I really do appreciate you gentlemen giving us a great overview and information regarding resources, especially things that are free. It's just so much information, and I hope the audience took notes and got an opportunity to really look at some of the things that you provided today. There are several links that was posted. We'll get these links out to you as part of the after show. It'll be posted on the FPC website. So if you want to reach one of these gentlemen, you can do so. But I want to say personally to each of you, thank you so much on behalf of the leadership here, Ms. Pender and Tommy Marks. We really appreciate your participation, and we're looking forward to having you all again. But thank you so much. What I want to do now is just go over a few administrative things to transition us to the roundtable discussion. So I just want the industry partners out there, MBEs and small businesses, just to remember that you have to click on the link, the logo, to get into one of the sessions. If you click on the link and you can't get in, go to another link, and because maybe they're full. We can hold up to 10 people at a time at 15-minute increments. The professionals that's managing this, the federal agencies and the industry that managing this, will give you a warning at the 15-minute point. You leave that, you click into the next link. So I just want to mindful of that. I want everybody to head over to the roundtable discussions. We have subject matter experts out there waiting to further have discussion with you individually about what you can do in marketing yourself to the government, and what you can learn about some of these federal agencies and anything else that you want to ask of them. But again, I want to thank this panelists again. You've been very professional. There's a lot of information that you have provided us. We really appreciate the free resources. Thank you so much.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Take care.
You're welcome.
You have a good one.